Hey guys, this is Sports with Dylan. This past draft was an interesting one, to say the very least. So today I'm going to be going through my favorite pick by every team. If you're wondering, I kind of figured this out by determining a couple things. First of all, if it addresses the team's needs. Second of all, if it seems like a draft steal or draft reach, or they're taken approximately where they should have been taken. Devin Lloyd was a great pick by the Jaguars because the Jaguars need defensive help. And trading into the first round to get it, that was just a great pick. And I'll talk about it on the Buccaneers side. It was even better for them. But the fact that they came out of this first round with Travon Walker and Devin Lloyd was great. But Travon Walker felt like a bit of a stretch at number 1 overall. But Devin Lloyd was great, especially where they picked him. He wasn't the first linebacker off the board, which was surprising. And they still got him. He will be an amazing force on their defense for years to come. Not much to say here. I think Aiden Hutchinson was the top prospect in this class. And he deserved to go number 1 overall. So the fact that the Lions got the local at number 2 overall, just amazing all around for them. In my opinion, Christian Harris was the 4th best linebacker in this draft. So the fact that he fell to the 3rd round was pretty good on the Texans to be able to grab him. Plus, he can be a great force on their defense. They need linebacker help, and he's great for that. Another great Alabama prospect on the Texans. I predicted Jermaine Johnson to be a top 10 pick. So when the Jets, like the Jaguars, traded into the first round to get Jermaine Johnson, it was amazing. In the first round, they addressed all 3 of their top needs in Ahmad Gardner at cornerback, Garrett Wilson at receiver, and then Jermaine Johnson on the defense. Great draft for them all around, but Jermaine Johnson is an amazing force on their defense. Most people expected either Ike Mekwonu or Evan Neal to be the first offensive lineman taken. I thought it would be Evan Neal. I was wrong. And Evan Neal fell to pick 7, where the Giants grabbed him, which was great on them, given that they desperately need offensive line help. And think of this now. Andrew Thomas on the left side, and Evan Neal on the right side. It's amazing for them. This just goes to show how bad I am at making mock drafts. I predicted Matt Corral to be a first rounder and to go to the Panthers. He ended up sliding to the 3rd round. Some people wouldn't even say that was a slide for him. Anyways, he was in the 3rd round when the Panthers picked him. So I may have picked it 2 rounds too early, but I still guessed it correctly. And they desperately need a quarterback, so maybe Matt Corral can actually be their future. I'm going to be straight up with you guys. I did not like the Bears draft one bit. Yes, they addressed the secondary, which was a need, but they should have gone offensive line. I liked the Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker picks. I just think they should have gone offensive line. Kyler Gordon edges out Jaquan Brisker just the tiniest bit because I feel that the Bears need a cornerback a bit more. We'll see what he can do on that defense, but I'm not sure if it was worth trading a good secondary for the future of your franchise quarterback. I thought that the Falcons were going to go defense here because they need help on defense. So when at number 8 they didn't go defense, I was kind of surprised. Luckily, in the 2nd round, they managed to grab Arnold Ebiketie. He will be a great pick for them on their defense. Hopefully pans out because they need defensive help. The Broncos had limited draft capital due to the Russell Wilson trade. But I like the Nick Bonito pick because they still need help on defense, especially after trading away Von Miller. Nick Bonito could be the next Von Miller. We don't know. But it's good to get some defensive help. They've secured the offense, especially with Russell Wilson, but they need defensive help. The Seahawks did what I predicted them to do. They need offensive line help, and they went offensive line help. Great on them for doing what they actually need. I mean, Chicago, you should take a page out of their book. Sam Howell fell all the way to the 5th round, where the Commanders gladly picked him up. Makes so much sense. Okay, he's not going to compete for the starting job right away, especially after they just traded for Carson Wentz. But they might as well have a bit of competition for the backup job at least. Taylor Heinicke played well last year, but still, why not get in some healthy competition? And maybe Sam Howell is actually the future of the Commanders. Andrew Booth was a great pick. They need help on secondary, so they addressed that with their first 2 picks. I actually think Andrew Booth is better than Lewis Cine. Just my opinion. Of course, he had injury concerns, so that's possibly why he fell. But this is a great pick for the Vikings. Patrick Peterson can mentor him for a year, and then he can take over that secondary. Just like the Broncos, the Browns had very limited draft capital due to the Deshaun Watson trade. But David Bell was a very good value pick where they got him. Now, he was slow. That's why he fell to the 3rd round. If not, he would have easily been an early 2nd rounder. But they need receiving help. They traded for Amari Cooper, but they could still use some help. So David Bell is a great pick. He plays a lot like Jarvis Landry, who they recently released. So I think this is a perfect fit for them. The Ravens had an absolutely amazing draft. I can't stress this enough. Every pick was perfect. It couldn't have been better for them. Absolutely perfect. I would have put Kyle Hamilton here, but he wasn't exactly addressing a need, given that their secondary seemed to be pretty full. But Daniel Faalele, I projected to be a 2nd rounder. He fell to the 4th round, like many picks fell for the Ravens, and the Ravens gladly picked him up. They need offensive line help. They already grabbed Tyler Linderbaum, and now you've got Daniel Faalele as well. This is amazing for them. But again, every single pick they made was awesome. Bet you've heard this before. The Dolphins had very limited draft capital. And even more limited than any other team. So they only had 4 picks. That's just to stress how limited it was. So it's kind of hard to pick a best pick here. They all were good, but again, 4 picks. Can't do much with that. Channing Tindall, I think, was the best pick because it addressed a need on defense. So now they actually get a bit of help on defense. A new young player. It's great for them that they can develop him. I projected Bernhard Raimann to be a 2nd rounder originally, but at times during the draft, I thought he could have gone in the 1st round, given how offensive linemen were flying off the board in the top 10. He ended up sliding all the way to the 3rd round, where the Colts gladly picked him up. They need offensive line help, and now they've got their future left tackle on their hands. It's a great scenario for them. Tough to pick here for the Chargers. They all made some really good value picks. But JT Wood seems like a great pick, given that Derwin James has major injury concerns, and Nasir Adderley is fine, but he's not great. Now they've got JT Woods, Nasir Adderley, Derwin James, Asante Samuel Jr., Bryce Callahan, and most importantly, J.C. Jackson. Okay, you could argue Derwin James is better than him. Don't know why I put in that order. Anyways, Now they've got all those players on this secondary. The Chargers are going to be amazing. I liked all the picks the Saints made, but Trevor Penning was especially good, given that the Saints needed offensive line help after losing Teron Armstead. Now they've got their new future left tackle. It's a perfect scenario for them. He fell to them, and now they've got Ryan Ramczyk and Trevor Penning. When you project a guy to go in the first round, and he falls all the way to the third round, the team that picks him up, it has to be their best draft pick, right? And yes, that's true. Nakobe Dean somehow fell to the third round. I projected him to be the second best linebacker and the second one off the board, and yet he fell all the way to the third round. It's a great pick for the Eagles, and now they compare him with Jordan Davis, another Jordan product. So this is perfect for Georgia all the way for the Eagles. The Steelers chose not to address the offensive line very much, which I was surprised of, given that they need offensive line help. But they got their future franchise quarterback with Kenny Pickett. So that is great on them. He was the first quarterback off the board at number 20 overall, which is crazy in nowadays age. So good for them on getting Kenny Pickett. The Patriots draft was the polar opposite of the Ravens. That is to say, I despised it. It was terrible. Every pick they made was so awful. And I know it's terrible for me to question Bill Belichick because he's proved everyone wrong so many times. But what the heck were they thinking? Why didn't they just trade down or actually pick positions of need? The only mediocre pick that was made was Marcus Jones, a cornerback. And that was actually a really good pick because they could have grabbed a better cornerback. So I don't love the pick, but at least they got a cornerback, which they need. Anyways, don't know what Bill Belichick was thinking at all. Thayer Munford was picked around where he should have been, but the Raiders need offensive line help, especially how terrible Alex Leatherwood's rookie season was. I don't think Thayer Munford is in a position to start very soon, but he will eventually. And when he does, mark my words, he will be a star. Didn't like the Cardinals draft that much, actually, because they didn't address many needs. But Myjai Sanders was a good value pick where they grabbed him, and he addressed their need. Maybe he can line up next to J.J. Watt this season. I don't love the Cameron Thomas pick, but Myjai Sanders was a really good pick on them. Didn't love the Cowboys draft either that much, but Damone Clark was a great pick, even if he's likely to miss his whole rookie season with his injuries. It's a good pick because they need linebacker help. Leighton Vander Esch isn't that good. Micah Parsons is amazing. But they could still use linebacker help. And maybe Damone Clark can line up next to Micah Parsons in a couple of years. We'll see. Not much to say here. The Bills had a pretty average draft. Wasn't bad. Wasn't amazing like the Ravens, but it was pretty good. They got Kaiir Elam, which they need, cornerback help, and now he can line up next to Tre'Davious White. Some expected Malik Willis to be a first-rounder. I predicted him to be a second-rounder. Surprised a lot when he fell to the third round, where the Titans can gladly snatch him up. He's been seen as a prospect that needs to sit for a couple of years, which is perfect for him and for the Titans, because they have Ryan Tannehill. He's great for now, but he's getting up there in age, and Malik Willis could easily succeed him soon enough. The Logan Hall pick for the Buccaneers was just genius. They needed defensive line help, but most of the prospects were gone by the time they were picking. So they ended up trading down with the Jaguars, and they ended up getting Logan Hall. at the beginning of the second round. Great on them, because they acquired more draft capital by trading down, and they got their need. Their front seven is back to how it was last year now, with a couple younger faces. It is great for them. Despite what my video, The Green Bay Packers Suck, might imply, I quite like the Packers draft after the first round. They addressed all of their needs. But this pick might surprise you guys. You might be thinking, wait, if they addressed all their needs, why a 6th rounder is your favorite pick? Well, I didn't love their picks. They addressed their needs, but they could have grabbed better players. I love the Kingsley Enagbare pick, but they don't need him in position. But they do need offensive line help, and Rasheed Walker is a great steal in the 6th round. I project him to go in the 3rd round, so a 6th round pick is great for them. And they might have a future David Bakhtiari on their offensive line. You can't blame the 49ers much, given how limited their draft capital was. But I don't understand so many of their picks. They needed secondary. They went Drake Jackson. Not the worst pick in the world, but could have done way better. Then, a running back in the 3rd round? Have you seen the running back room? And Kyle Shanahan can make it work with undrafted free agents. They don't need to waste a 3rd round pick on a running back. But they finally got the cornerback they need with Tariq Castro-Fields. The Chiefs had a very good draft. Like the Ravens and the Jets, I would put them at number 3. Karlaftis, I expected to be a top 10 pick. He fell, just like Jermaine Johnson, and fell a lot. So the Chiefs gladly picked him up. Made all the sense in the world for them to grab Karlaftis where they did. He's a great value pick, and they need help on that defensive line. The Daxton Hill pick addresses a need. I don't know if it's safety or cornerback. He can play both. See what I did there? Actually, it is cornerback. Right now, they don't need safety help. But we don't know what's going to happen with Jesse Bates and his contract situation. In which case, Daxton Hill could easily slide in at safety as well. Feels fitting to say this one last time. The Los Angeles Rams had a very limited draft capital. Never heard that before, have you? But the Derion Kendrick pick was great. They needed a bit of cornerback help. Now they don't after they trade for Troy Hill. But at the time, they did. And they still could use a younger face in that room. And Derion Kendrick's a great pick. He can even play safety if necessary. So, I love this pick on them. As much as the Rams do. They could have kept their draft capital, but you could argue they wouldn't have won the Super Bowl. So, can't blame them too much. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again with a new video soon.